When you finally have that incredible wildlife encounter, the one you'd been thinking about for days, weeks, even months sometimes, the last thing you want is to have the wrong lens as you begin to shoot. And for me, this was the moment. I was just minutes away from capturing what would be my best photo to date. I had been scouting wildlife locations for weeks. It allowed me to capture some beautiful photos of an osprey. It led me to running into a pack of coyotes at Rocky Mountain National Park. But this was the moment that was so incredible. Not just a bear, but a mama bear and her cub that really allowed me to capture some beautiful wildlife photos. And as I look back on that moment, I'm so glad I had the right particular lens for that particular wildlife encounter. 600 millimeters. Now, to be fair, that doesn't mean that 600 millimeters is the perfect focal distance and really zoom lens for your wildlife photography. There are a number of different factors that you want to consider before you head out and start shooting wildlife. I want to cover that, at least my experience in this particular video. What I do know is this is where it begins. The most important lens in any wildlife photographer's kit is a telephoto and zoom lens, especially if you're just getting started. Having the ability to zoom in and out to different focal lengths is really powerful, allowing you to frame up the perfect shot. And I think that's a really great place to start, filling the frame. That's the thing I like to think about when I'm shooting wildlife photos. I want to fill the frame with the subject that I'm shooting. So things like distance or proximity to my subject, and of course focal length, really matter a lot. So if you're shooting birds and they're just a little bit further away, well then having the reach of 600 millimeters, like this zoom lens is a great example, allowing me to zoom out to 200 millimeters and zoom all the way in to 6, gives me so much versatility. However, if you're just feet away to your subject, like a hummingbird, then a 400 millimeter focal distance might be perfect. And again, that's where this lens would really be a great option. Another thing to think about for you specifically, and that's the thing I want to share with you, and as I make more videos, I want to cover. Because there are so many people on YouTube that say things that like, this is the way it is and anything else is wrong, and that's definitely not the case. It depends on you, what you shoot, how you shoot. If you're walking into a canyon for 3, 4 miles, 5 miles, and then you head back, then weight is a factor, and maybe you want to consider shooting with a 100 to 400 zoom lens, or Canon has a 100 to 400, they have a 100 to 500, or maybe you need more reach than a telephoto zoom lens with a maximum focal distance of 600 millimeters makes a lot more sense. And this is probably a good time to talk a little bit, not a lot, because I want to make a dedicated video about teleconverters. Here's the thing. Again, the goal is to really come up with the perfect lens for the perfect wildlife scenario. But the fact of the matter is we can't tell our subjects to step in, turn to the left. You get what you get, and you want to be flexible in real time when it happens. Sometimes carrying a teleconverter in your pocket and a 100 to 400 is the way to go. Again, let's say you're hiking. This is a lot easier to manage. It's a lot lighter, and it gives you almost the same reach, 560 millimeters. But the goal should always be to identify the perfect lens for the situations you'll be in, so you don't need a teleconverter, so you don't need to crop in camera or to crop in post. Any of those things are going to degrade your image slightly. The goal is highest quality image possible, so no teleconverter, no cropping, it's a better way to go. And another situation you will run into is oftentimes the minimal focal distance is still too much if you're shooting Nikon 180 millimeters to 600, Sony 200 millimeters to 600, 200 is just too much. Like when I was shooting these particular mountain goats, they were so close, I got rid of this lens and instead started to shoot with the 100 to 400. In a lot of ways, this is a better lens for wildlife photography as long as your subjects are close enough in proximity to allow you to fill the frame. And this was the case with these particular photos. This lens allowed me to zoom in to capture details like you see in this particular image, while also giving me the flexibility to zoom back out to capture more environmental photos like this one that I really love. I love this photo because it shows the mountains in the background, the colors, the setting sun, the sunset, the beautiful rocks, all of it because I was shooting at 100 millimeters. And sometimes even this is too much, and that's when we want to talk about having something in your kit that is more traditional. This is a 16 to 28, and another great option is a 24 to 70, because sometimes you'll find yourself in a beautiful scene, and the best image you can get is based more on the entire scene rather zooming in to one specific animal. That was the case here when I shot in Yellowstone National Park, and all these bison were along the Yellowstone River. The fog was rising off the river, the sun was also rising, and having a 24 to 70 was really the way to go. So start off and think to yourself, am I concerned with weight? If you're fairly active, if you're fairly strong, like I can handhold this no problem. I even hike in now with my prime 600 millimeter lens. That's about 1.5 pounds or so, maybe 2 pounds heavier than this, and it's no problem. Now, to be fair, it's a pain in the butt, but I'm willing to sacrifice, I'm willing to trade for the improved image quality. So 600 millimeters is probably more in line with what a lot of wildlife photographers would need in most situations, but sometimes 100 to 400 is the way to go, especially if weight is an issue. And the thing for me that's far more important than the right lens or camera is actually having the ability to find wildlife. And this video on the screen covers just that. Click on this video, I'll see you there. You dig?